Hello, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I got the wild hair going. I love it's like the sky. I love seeing that background. I don't really realize it till I start the video that the sky looks the way it does, so it's pretty cool. Sometimes it's nice just to get that background of that mountain to see. So today is March 21st, the day after the solstice, and let's see what it has to say. Change brings two ravens overhead. Change brings opportunity, unknown. Once again, back to change. But it is true. Whether I like it or not, change is the one thing I can depend on. It may take time for change to be seen, but things are always changing. My physiology is always changing. Nature is always changing. Nothing is static. Change might move at a pace where it's easy to miss the daily changes. When something happens in my life that causes a change I feel resistant to, it's hard, if not impossible, to see there can be new opportunities for me because of it. My physiology can get in the way. When I'm feeling stressed because I'm afraid or uncertain and things feel daunting, I can't see the opportunities being created. When I tap, I soothe my physiology and my emotional landscape. And from this soothed place, I can now see what's possible and the opportunities. This happens as I honor my truth with tapping and allow the potent emotions and fearful thoughts to be attended to. Thought for today. What if today is a day I can tap if I feel stressed about some potential change? That's all I have to do. This allows for what needs to come to come. Hey Michelle, this is such an important part of this because for many of us, change can feel daunting and feel really scary. But you can tap on, this change, I'm really afraid of this change. This feels daunting. That's what I love about tapping. You can meet yourself exactly where you're at. It doesn't matter. It's like, I'm afraid of what might surface. I'm afraid of what I might have to face. I'm afraid of the changes that could happen in my life. I'm afraid of, and I think it was the other day when I read that, we often look back on, I do this, I'm so guilty of this myself. We look back on, oh God, what I'm leading. When we moved into this house, I was so resistant. I was so resistant to that because I knew the neighborhood we were in. It's getting kind of windy out, but anyway, and I knew what was there, and I had lived out in this area before, but I had lived back in a much farther area that felt a lot more desolate to me. And this area is like the perfect combination. We're out in the country, but we're 20 minutes from town. It's an incredible, and then I never saw the wild horses the last time I lived here, which was almost 30 years ago. So now I get to see them, and I love living here, but I came kicking and screaming, and I'm not kidding when I say that. And then one day I was out hiking around here, and I walked into the house and I just started crying. I said to my husband, thanks for, bringing us to this place and, dealing with my resistance to it. And it's just been such a great thing. But had I allowed, I was in that resistant place and thinking like, oh no, this isn't going to work out. This isn't good. This isn't that. And sometimes it's that resistance just comes from fear of the unknown. And literally in that moment, I was really sort of forced on a level, which sounds interesting to say that. But then what I did is, my husband goes, why don't you go and go out there by yourself. Go check out the place by yourself. So I did, and the realtor brought me out here, and I checked it out by myself, and I sat on the back patio, and I really soaked it in. And then I came, and we went ahead, and we got the house, and then I came out, and I spent a couple nights by myself with the animals. And so I was taking all these little steps, and I'm like, oh my God, I love it out here. But there was something I would have told you, and I would have been absolutely convinced that there was something wrong with making this move, that it wasn't going to be okay, that it wasn't going to work out, and it couldn't have worked out better. And I'm like tapping through all my resistance, but I was, and I, to this day, I can't tell you exactly what sort of, let's say, trauma it was kicking into in me. But what I do know is I had just come back from a very emotionally intense weekend with my ex and my daughter up in Fort Collins, Colorado, getting her to school. So I was sort of reeling from a lot of stuff that had been happening there. And I think that really was in the way. And then when I cleared that out and got out here. So I wanted to share that because sometimes we can be absolutely convinced that some change is completely detrimental to us, but then you get to the other side of it and it's been the best possible change for you. So let's tap. And I've got Grace on my lap. Karate chop. Even though I can be so convinced this change is really bad for me, I'm having body memories, cellular memory that's getting in my way. I choose to honor this truth right now. Even though I can be absolutely convinced this change would be terrible for me. And that can get confusing. How do I know what to do? I choose to honor my confusion right now. Even though I could bet money, because I'm so convinced this change isn't good for me. What if I could see this differently now? And go to the eyebrow. How do I know? How do I tell the difference? My body can be screaming at me that this change isn't good. And what if, when I try to figure that out from the small self, from the very human part of me that's in fear, I can't make a good decision. So what if the only thing I need to do is to tap on that fear, to tap on how that feels to me? And as I alleviate the fear, as I soothe and calm the fear, what if I'm clearing out the muck and the decisions get made through me rather than by me as I clear out the fear? So when I am terrified of potential change, what if I can take making a decision off the table and just tap through my fear? And as I find soothing from my fear of the unknown, what if, from a calmer place of being, I open up to greater possibilities than I've ever known? So whenever I'm stuck in confusion, making a decision off the table and just tapping through my fear is the best thing to do. So take a breath. This is the thing that it's so easy to forget because we think like, I've got to make a decision. I've got to make this happen. And I will tell you, you know, like I went through all this like fear and confusion about making this move. And I had, you know, my mind was reeling with all kinds of different things like, oh my God, we're out in the sticks and how's it going to be for the cats? And I did lose a cat out here. I did lose a cat. So that, who knows, that could have been part of what was coming up for me, that in some ways energetically, maybe I knew something like that was coming. And that still, you know, can be heartbreaking. You know, it allowed me to move through a lot of that. But it's just been an incredible move in every other way, and that's good. And I think about, like, we have incredible neighbors, and we now have a house that's sold here, so we have new neighbors moving in that we'll get to know. And it's interesting that we lived in the city, and now we live out in more the country, and we have more of a community out here than we ever had, where we had neighbors right next to us. We all knew each other. And so much more is opened up now. And we do Airbnb out of our house because we were like, we have these 2 empty rooms. And we have met the most incredible people through doing that. Where we lived in town, we lived by the Ayurvedic Institute, and we used to always have a student live with us because every year they did classes. So pretty much every year we had a student that would come live with us. And we've been the type of people that have enjoyed that. My bestie here, she's like, let me get this straight. You let people stay in your house that you don't even know by choice? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. And we love it because we've just met incredible people doing that. So much has opened up having moved out here. But like I said, I came out in a lot of ways kicking and screaming. But what I knew to do was just keep tapping on my confusion and on my belief about that. And it's made all the difference. So when in confusion, take making a decision off the table. Here comes all my animals. Here's Ozzy. Take making a decision off the table and just tap on the confusion and the fear. And then the other thing is this big guy, Ozzy, who found us at an RV park when we were down at the Bosque looking at the cranes. He's been an incredible addition to that, because here he goes. I'm going to watch him. Yep. There he goes. He runs and he jumps over this wall in the back. And like, I tell you, there are no coyotes that are hanging out around this house now because of him, because he runs, jumps the wall, and he just runs the perimeter of the place. So it's just been incredible, all the things that have lined up. Thank you for this. I needed this. Right, Michelle, it's so true. We can so get locked in confusion and fear of change and think, I've got to figure this out. And we don't. We don't have to figure it out. In fact, we can't. The physiology does not allow it when we're in that kind of confusion. So when you just go, all I got to do right now is tap on my fear and tap on my confusion and understand that a decision will get made through me. I'll know the right move to make as I attend to the fear. So great to have you here, Michelle. I'd like to see you here. And that's it for now. Have a great rest of your day, evening, morning, wherever you are on this fine planet that we all call home together. Bye for now.